Good morning, everybody. We are just about ready to go live with Amy Graca, and we will be back in just a moment to allow you time to log in. Please message us if you cannot hear me, or if you've got any questions at all. You should be able to see a landing slide. And again, this is a TicketForce webinar going live with Amy Graca, and we will be back soon. And I said your name wrong again. So we'll be starting right at the top of the hour. And until then, we'll just put you on mute and let you get comfortable. And we'll be right here very soon. Thanks so much. Good morning. We are live this morning, going live, and we are sitting here at Drive Co-working for Women in downtown Gilbert, Arizona, and we're doing this broadcast live at this great co-working space that helps to strengthen and build a community of women in business so that they can come here and work together and have a community together. So we're happy to be broadcasting live from Thrive this morning. And my name is Lynne King Smith, and I am CEO at TicketForce and also the founder of Thrive Co-working for Women. And I love to do, from time to time, webinars where we have a conversation with women particularly in male-dominated fields. So whether that would be technology or film or anything like that at all, I love to have that conversation so that we can learn from each other, strengthen each other, find out what the pitfalls were, figure out how people like my guest today, Amy Graca, and I am trying so hard to say that right, but how my guest today, Amy Graca, got to where she is in the world of ticketing, which is my world, so very dear to my heart. And yeah, a very male-dominated world as well. So welcome, Amy.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Yep. And Amy, just so everybody knows, is the Vice President of National Ticketing for Caesars Entertainment in Las Vegas. And as such, she essentially, Amy, you pretty much run a ticketing company within Caesars Entertainment. You're over how many venues?
I do. We are today at 89 venues worldwide. We just opened our first venue in Dubai, and we are also the third largest promoter, just second to Live Nation and AEG, which most folks don't realize that, Caesars is. We are a standalone promoter too. So a lot happening over here at Caesars Entertainment.
Yeah, and you were telling me about how many offices you have. You don't just have one office to go to.
I don't. I work in multiple offices across Las Vegas, and so we do have 10 properties here in the city, and I do have an office at all of them. So while I typically try to stick to just a couple of properties, and I've actually put a limit for myself traveling around to 3 places per day, because otherwise I just spend too much time going back and forth across the strip. But yes, I'm very fortunate to kind of be a traveler.
Yeah, and speaking of traveling, the interesting timing was that Amy and I spent most of last week together on an entirely other time zone. So we were in London and Birmingham, not Alabama, but England. And
Yes.
We attended a ticketing conference there. And we both are fortunate enough to serve on the board of INTIX, which is our industry's, our board for our industry, International Ticketing Association. So we were over there hanging around and walking around the streets of London during some free time, and it really it was the best prep for
it really was
a podcast webinar ever, because we know each other a lot better than we did prior to that. So, I mean, we talked about everything from kids, of which between us we have 5 girls. Mine are quite a different age from hers. And so, Amy, let's just start off, because I think women always love to know what is the, what's life like at home. It's all very different for all of us in different stages of life. So a little bit about you and your family
Sure.
to get us started here, so we can get to know you a little bit before we talk about your career.
Absolutely. Yes. And so, as you mentioned, I do have 2 little girls. They are 3 and a half. I can't believe we've made it to 3 and a half, but we have. It has been a very rewarding and yet struggling challenging 3 years getting to this point. I growing up always was really, truly on the fence on whether I wanted a family or not. I never had this overwhelming desire to have children, and it was really more of my husband that said, no, like, I want to do this. I want to do this with you, and let's have a baby. And believe it or not, then we got the news that we were going to have 2. And so it's funny thinking back, he was probably more excited at the time than I was of having twins. And because my natural instinct was more to say, well, how am I going to do this, right? I think I was already feeling very overwhelmed by the thought of trying to have a career. We had recently moved to Las Vegas, and the thought of having one baby, okay, we'll figure it out, we'll make it work, and all of a sudden we got the news that we're having 2. And of course, I was thrilled and I was excited and all of those things, but very quickly that daunting reality set in of, well, how do you take care of 2? And we don't have family here. And so, I tend to side on the air of reality of really, how is this going to work? So anyhow, we got through the pregnancy, and I did end up having them at 28 weeks. which is very, very early in the, gestation time frame.
This is 3.5 years ago. You've been at Caesars for much longer than that. So here you are fairly, a few years into your job there. Was your role vice president at that time?
It wasn't, believe it or not. I was still director of ticketing, still over like a national scope of similar to
Right.
what I do today, but it wasn't a vice president role. And very candidly, when I got pregnant, I thought to myself, okay, you know what? I've made it to director. And by the way, I'm a director overseeing at the time 70 something venues, right? And I really felt at that time that I had quote unquote made it. I've made it. Like, I've done everything I wanted to do in my career. I mean, that was just kind of the mindset, right? Like, now I'm going to focus on being a mom. And believe it or not, when I came back from maternity leave is when the conversation came about to say, I do want to be a vice president. I do think that I can contribute more. I am ready to step into this role. And while no one has the perfect plan, no one has the the book that someone just handed me. Right. To say, well, here's how this is going to all play out for you. I thought, you know what? I'm going to do this. And I'm not only going to do this for myself, I'm also going to do this for my girls because I want to show them that, and when I say you can do it all, I'm truly not doing it all perfectly by any means, right? But you figure it out.
Yes. I mean, did you plan on going back when you knew you were having twins? I mean, or did you give thought to just, I'm going to go back and stay director? Did you give any thought to just not going back at all and taking a clear break?
For sure. That absolutely crossed my mind multiple times. Sometimes it crosses my mind even until today because now they're in such a fun phase, right? Like we're almost past diapers. Let me preface that by saying we're almost past diapers. But I really struggled with it because they were in the NICU for 3 months, and that was not something that I was anticipating. It is not something that anyone plans for when you are pregnant and you're going through this, pregnancy. I was sick a lot, and I thought, okay, I'll have my 3 months at home with them, and I'll figure this out. But lo and behold, they came early. Amelia was 1 pound, 11 ounces, and Charlotte was 2 pounds, 4 ounces. Goodness. Yeah.
Wow.
So, and that is, the NICU world is a whole nother world that I did not even know existed. I hope none of you ever have to figure that out. But so I spent 3 months then figuring out how to balance work and seeing them every day, because I did go back to work just 3 weeks after having a C-section because I wanted to save my maternity leave for when they came home and I was able to spend time with them.
Wow.
And so this is a real issue that we have in this country of how to deal with situations when women have, when we don't have the perfect pregnancy and we don't have the baby that's born and you go home, you're 36, 72 hours, whatever it is later, and on you go with life.
Can I ask, like, even on the basics, how did you pump? Like,
right. And so that's super awkward too, because going back to, I have all these offices at all these different locations. I was still doing that when I came back. So someone at Rio, she's a sweetheart, made me a cover for my office door because it's a glass door. So she had that all in place for me when I got back. But that's the reality. Like, you have to bring the pump with you and around to these different places you go.
And wash it out and clean it in the staff kitchen and all of that. Yeah, that for sure is something that people don't even think about.
They don't even think about.
When you talk about, because if you do the typical, even a 6-month leave, it sounds like Caesars gave you 3 months, but even so, many people are nursing way beyond that. So
way beyond that.
So you've got the kids, you get back in, you took your maternity leave. How did you juggle the brain part and the emotional part of not? I mean, you've got these babies in the hospital, you've got these little babies at home, and I'm sure you had good care for them in the schedule. But when you stepped back into work, how did you juggle that changing of that emotion so that you could be, power boss and getting things done at work while obviously your life has changed forever with having these two new little souls that you care so deeply about. How did you deal with that part of it?
And I will say it didn't happen overnight in the sense of it does become your new, right? And so I am very fortunate that I do have a little bit of flexibility to say, I'm not clocking in and out. And so whether I would leave at 8:30 or 8:45, I'm okay. But the reality is I really did, value my time with them in the morning. And my mom watched them, thankfully, for a couple of months when I first went back to work. So just having her there also made me more comfortable knowing. Right. She came out and stayed with us, and knowing that if I can't be there, the next best thing is truly your own mother. So she was there with me. And then we transitioned into a nanny, which we did know her from someone else that had used her. So, at least it wasn't someone completely new. But really getting back into work, believe it or not, actually helped me feel more, almost feel more like I used to feel. And so it did give me a little bit of separation from being a mom and being a career person, and focusing on we are so incredibly busy here, as most people are, right, in their career. It did almost make it a little bit easier to say, okay, during the day I need to focus on this. I'm going to leave this at whatever time. I'm going to go home and I am going to focus on my girls. And that is something that I still do today is, from I'm not putting an exact time frame on it, but for sake of argument here, from 6 to 8, like everyone that, works with me knows, like, you need to call me or text me if something is blowing up, because I am not responding to you until during that time. That is the time that I have with my girls.
So you compartmentalize quite a bit.
I do.
Yeah. And again, some people do it that way. Some people are more fluid. I'm a little bit more fluid, but I think it's finding what works for you. So I have 3 daughters who are quite a lot older than yours, but their daughters then the same. So my kids are all adults, and but the messaging that goes on between us, I will often be in the middle of a conference call or something and see a message pop up, and sometimes I have the brain power to be able to answer that from my kids, and then go right back to the meeting. And other times, I will send something back to them to be like, look, I need to totally focus where I'm at. You're going to have to reach me later, or call Dad, and then they'll just laugh. But, and
I think that'll change too over the years, right? I mean, to your point, like mine are not texting me yet, although they absolutely know how to use my iPhone. Right. But I do think that changes, and we have really good communication. I think the other thing that helps me is Luke does work from home. He has a separate office when he's not traveling. And so I really feel I'm such a believer in things happen for a reason over the years. He used to be an electrician in Chicago. When we moved out here, he started working for a company that actually is very happy to have him on the West Coast, but that also means that he works from home because his company is based in Madison, Wisconsin. And so if there was truly an emergency, right, or if for whatever reason, there have been a couple of times over the years when they were really young that the nanny called me and said, I need you to come home. Like, something is wrong with one of them, or, one won't stop crying. And so I went home, right? But knowing that he is there the majority of the time has been such a blessing to me, so that I can focus on what it is I need to do. And he knows this too.
Can you imagine the single moms? The single moms that work are like my heroes, because
absolutely
I can't even imagine, because what you just described, I have the same thing I always have, and having a partner, I mean, I can really understand that. Oh man, I was going to use the word tribe, Amy, and after our board meeting, I don't know if I will, but We
It's
often
okay.
talk in
I
terms
like
of
that word. Yes.
women being a tribe, and there's been different times in our culture where they actually help to raise each other's children, and I cannot imagine the people that are doing it by yourself. So if you're listening and you're a single mom or a single dad, our hats go off to you. We don't know how
Absolutely.
you do it for sure, but
Absolutely.
I want to bring into people like to hear about. So you're a vice president at one of the major entertainment groups in the world, and yet I'm listening to you talk, and you just sound like me and like a normal person. And people love to hear about a little bit about your journey and how you got there. Most people, so everybody listening today is not in ticketing, so it's a little different than a lot of people are in other fields. But tell us a little bit about how you set your sights. Did you have your sights set pretty high? Are you a competitive person? Did you have goals, when you first started in ticketing to say, I think I'm going to be a vice president someday? Or did you just take a step at a time? Tell us a little bit about your journey.
Yeah, absolutely. And, here's the funny thing. I think thinking back, I really did start in this industry as a summer job, and I'm going way back here, right? I did not know anything existed beyond a box office manager. So at the time, I think I started in high school. All of my girlfriends and I decided to apply at I say local, but it was a Live Nation amphitheater in our town where we lived right outside of Chicago. And we checked the box office because, very candidly, we had no idea what that even meant. We knew what parking was. we knew what concession stands were.
That's outdoors. Yeah. Yes.
We thought, okay, we really want to work here. So let's check all of these boxes and see what we can get. And we all got hired into the box office, and we all were ticket sellers. And I learned as much as I could that summer. We had so much fun that I said, I absolutely want to stay in this. And so again, right, a summer job turned into a supervisor.
Be careful what you say.
Yeah, right, exactly. And then really I had my sights on, I want to be a manager. And so I think back to your question of, I am a competitive person. I played sports growing up. I think that does play into someone's personality, that desire to win, to strive, to show like your talent. That's just who I am. That's, you know what I mean? That has always been there.
What sports did you play?
I played tennis, basketball, and softball. And then I also had 2 horses all throughout high school that I would then, after practice and after games, go and ride and take care of them. So I've always just been a person that's stayed really involved, have been a competitive person. Even as far as, and this is kind of silly, but looking back, when I would ride my horses, I always found it challenging and rewarding to ride without a saddle. And for anybody, I don't know if anybody on this call has done that. That is so hard.
Girl.
Yeah, that is so hard
right.
to do. And yet that is what I wanted to accomplish, right? And so anyhow.
Yes.
I think it's
I'm getting an idea of how you got where you are today. I mean, as you moved up through the industry, did you want the positions? Was a lot of changing position for you? Just like, hey, look, I can get there because I'm competitive and I know I can do that job maybe better than somebody else who's in there. What motivated you to keep rising up through?
Yeah, and my tactics I think changed over the years to say, as silly as this may sound, I don't like to be told what to do, right? I want to be the leader. And so with that mindset, it comes to me to say, well, wait a second here. I want to own this strategy. And that's really where I realized I started to change a little bit to say, if I can own the strategy and I can prove that I know as my career evolved, I mean, I've worked the box office side. I've also worked the ticketing side, meaning I worked for Ticketmaster. So I really felt like I had a comprehensive view of how to build events, how to speak the language, how to talk to promoters, how to talk to box offices, how to talk to the IT teams, right? From hardware perspective. I really tried to learn as much as I could in every aspect of my journey. And then it changed to say, well, wait a second. Now I want to own the strategy. I figured out the operational process. I've worked the events where lines are 20, 30, 40 people deep, and how do you get through that evening, right? And you all celebrate. I've done the operational side. And that, of course, evolves over time. And now I've done the ticketing side. So now I know how to program, be it, albeit the Ticketmaster platform specifically, but now it's really turned into the business strategy, and really the customer service side of it, right? There's a quote that I like that we kind of use around here that says, customers may forget what you said, but they'll never forget how you made them feel. And that's so interesting. And you could use that in so many different business genres, but specific to Vegas, people come here and they've come from, places all around the world. And it's how do we make sure that they have a good experience? At that side of my job, no one really is looking at me to say, what is the business strategy? They're saying, what is the customer service experience? So there's a lot of different things that go into, what I do today that I've used and learned along the ways. And, we've all had bad customer service experiences. So when something like that happens, while you get through it, and whatever the case may be, whether it's travel, vacation, a sporting event that you've gone to, whatever that may be, I always think to myself, either A, how would I handle that, or how would I want my team to handle that? And so that's something on the box office side, okay, how do we really focus on the customer? And then on the business strategy side, now it's about revenue, driving revenue. It's about the business relationships. And again, we are a Ticketmaster client. And so, but running 89 venues across the country all on one platform, I really had to take a step back and say, and this was part of my journey to get to where I am within the Caesars organization today, when they asked me to come to be a part of the RFP process almost 9 years ago now, and then said, wow, okay, we want you to actually own this project, and we want you to roll this out to the 40 venues that we had at the time. And I had to build the database that would service all of these venues in the same way. And I think the key, and someone else has asked me before, how were you able to do that, and why were you successful? And I think the key is I did not go into every one of these properties or every one of these venues with each of these different box office managers and ticketing folks, right, that had a process in place that thought that they were doing it the best. I listened. I listened to what it is, how they were running their business, how they wanted to run their business, even though I was kind of the bad guy, right? I was kind of the bad guy that came in and said, here comes Caesars Corporate. We're going to come in with this awesome new platform. We're going to increase your transaction time, because for anybody that is listening knows that the host was built for speed. And we are now on an Artix platform, which very candidly is not as quick. So I was changing the way that they do business.
Fun, yes.
And it's how do you sell this in a way to say, okay, I understand your business. Let's talk about how things are going to be in the future. And now let's talk about the strategy. And so we've been able to do that successfully over the last several years, and we've implemented, different tools and different pricing strategies and different inventory strategies, very candidly. But I think what I've been able to do here is build trust, and people trust that even though this may be scary, this may be out of their box, this may be uncomfortable for them, we're going to try it. And I have such a wonderful team here in Las Vegas that we all support each other, and they build for the country that, we've been able to build that over the years. And that really,
Right.
it goes a long ways.
Yes, it does. Well, Amy, I want to ask you, as you've moved up through, and I think some of the keywords I heard were listen and trust, and that's why I think women in leadership have such key roles to play today, because the generation that's providing much of the labor for the workforce is demanding that they have people that they can work for who will listen to them and who they can trust. And so this is why I keep saying that it's this amazing mix right now, a convergence of a workforce that needs those things that come very naturally to women, both in nurturing and listening and trusting. And so there was this time where you had all these male leadership qualities that we would look at and masculine, and a lot of women in leadership tried to mimic those because that's how you got ahead and that's how you got to where you were. You came in and you felt you had to be quick, decisive, which means sometimes not listening. You had to be strong, which sometimes means not listening. And that worked for a time, but it's not Mad Men. It's not 1960 anymore, right? And so now you have a workforce that says, I'm not going to work for you if I can't trust you and you don't listen to me. And guess what? There's plenty of other opportunities out there. And you have women who are figuring out that we have a place in leadership, and we are doing what we can to break into those leadership roles. And so now I can actually say, I think that it's the feminine qualities, whether they're displayed by a man or a woman, that are really going to show success. And what you said right there was listening and trust. You said that without even realizing that you were feeding into my soapbox that I just went on to. But I did want to ask you, were there any promotions you didn't get, or have you gotten every promotion position that you've ever wanted?
Not every single thing I've ever wanted, for sure. And there's been jobs that I've applied for over the years that I have not gotten for, one reason or another. I may not ever know that. And I've also made decisions to leave companies, right? When I thought, okay, I need to change my priorities, or I no longer like where the company is going. I did leave Ticketmaster after the Live Nation merger. And that was, a very uncertain, awkward time when a lot of the structure within the TM organization was changing. There were no longer general managers in each market, and they were really moving to their verticals in which they operate today. I look back at that, and you can second guess everything in life. I mean, let's be honest, right? But I try not to. But it was a pivotal. Yeah, it was a pivotal point for me in my career when I said, I'm going to go be a box office manager. I'm going back to the client side. And really, what had happened, unbeknownst to me, is that's when Caesars Corporate was trying to say, we want a solution for all of these venues. We want one solution. When I came into this, there were 5 different ticketing platforms that we converted into one. And what had happened is that I was trying to do a 4-property deal just to make the deal better for Caesars. And at the time, our vice president, who is now our president, who I report to, Jason Gatsworth, he called me because he got wind of what it was I was trying to do for these 4 properties, and said, hey, great, like you are really thinking outside the box here, and do you want to help me do this RFP, because you clearly understand the way ticketing works and is evolving, and come to Las Vegas for one meeting. That was kind of like the hook. Come for one meeting. I thought, well, okay, I'll come for one meeting.
Right.
And I remember saying to myself, well, that was fun, but I'm never moving there, or I could never see myself, leaving Chicago. And I think that's also something that a lot of people, do tend to view as something they can't leave their comfort zone. They can't leave the town that they grew up in, or the city that they love, or their family, right? Both my husband and I, our families are in Chicago, and we don't see them as often as I would like to. But the reality is we made the choice. We said, okay, we're going to go and we're going to go for 1 year. And you don't always have to put a time frame on anything, but for us, that was kind of what worked. We said, we're going to go for 1 year and we're going to see.
Jump a little.
Made it easier to jump, right? And let's be honest, 1 year seems like about 1 month these days because that's how fast time flies. And so then we thought, okay, this is going to be our 3-year plan. And from there, we started to realize that actually the time that we spend with our families now is even that much more, I don't want to say important, but meaningful, because we don't see them every day. And yes, there's times where we miss out on things, but we've figured out a way to make it work. And I think moving across the country once, I would do it again if I had to. I think at this point I would even, move internationally if I had to, because it's not as scary. You realize that you can make things work, that there are resources. I think you have to get comfortable with asking for help. And that's not a bad thing either. And I do pay for childcare, right? My mom's not here to watch them all the time. And so there's sacrifices that you do make, but you can make it work if it's something you're willing to explore.
Yeah.
For sure.
And in our world, and I know you work for a man and you have a lot of, I think you told the story on a panel that we were on. I don't know if it was you or Jackie, who's also on the call. So, hey, shout out to you, Jackie. One of you was talking about walking in a room where you're the only woman at the boardroom table. And I'm sure that happens to you frequently. I think Jackie was saying that also is the case with her. But talk a little bit about, without needing to throw anybody under a bus or anything, just a little bit about what it's like to work in some of these male-dominated fields, and there are a lot of women still trying to break through ceilings. There are very few CEOs and very few senior vice presidents in the entertainment field. In our tech world, there's still very few. What has been some of your experience with that when you're, sitting here coming in at this high level at Caesars, which is obviously because of your persistence and your great ideas and your holistic approach to business that you take, that's just going to make room for you. That's just your gift making room. But did it give you pause at all at any time in your career that you knew, hey, when you get outside of the box office, I become a minority?
It's true. It's absolutely true. And there have been many times where I've walked into a boardroom or, different meetings, especially as we look at the promoter side of the business, right? The Live Nations, the AEGs. It is a male dominated industry. And so it can be intimidating, right? And I get intimidated for sure, especially when I don't know something, especially when maybe I second guess myself. Maybe I feel or think at the time I'm not fully confident on what it is I'm saying, but I do try to take the approach of, you know what, I do know what I'm talking about. I do stay positive.
It's because you do.
Right. So, but it's not always easy. I mean, I know, it appears that I may feel that way, but inside, right, when I'm sitting there and I may be one or two women of 20 people in the room, it's very easy to sit there and say nothing, even though I may have input to give. And so that's something that I constantly work on and within my own self of how to not lose that confidence in that type of situation, because it's easy to do. And I think, going back to women, and not all women, and not all men, but for me, it's being relatable. And I don't know, have you watched Ellen's new thing on Netflix? She actually calls it Relatable with Ellen.
Yes. Oh my God, I did watch that.
Yes, and it's so good. And at the end, if anybody is listening and hasn't, go and watch that, because at the end she talks about being relatable. And when I was watching this, I mean, candidly, I was watching it on the airplane trying to kill time, but it was so ironic to me that I decided to watch that, because I thought that is it. That is it.
Yeah.
Where so many people feel like you no longer understand me as you climb up the corporate ladder because I'm a ticket seller and you don't know what it's like to sell a ticket. You don't know what it's like when someone's yelling at me. No, I do. I really do. I've done, you know how many times I've been told that I'm no longer going to have a job because do you know who I am, that you don't have tickets for me? You know what I mean? Like, we've all gone through that. And I think, staying relatable. And of course, it's easy to say as you join and climb that corporate ladder, you have to figure out what is your new position in your work environment. But staying relatable, especially, it's really important to me, like as I interact with my team, that they know that I used to build events. I used to do all of these different things, hook up ticket printers and work those lines. I used to do that.
When I was traveling with you this last week, you were telling me how much fun you had. Fun. You guys, she said this was fun. When she went around to those 47 venues, she said it should have been a reality TV show. We should have had the cameras rolling because so much happened. But when you spoke about that, you just like lit up. And I'm thinking, okay, I'm much more on the tech side and I love the people side, but I am not, the person who would get a thrill out of going from box office to box office and getting them set up. But you love what you do, and that's really key. And I think it's important. And my kids are all, late 20s, early 30s, and some of them think they know what they really love, and some of them don't. And maybe on some days they think they know what they love doing, and other days they're not sure what they want to be doing. And I think it's so important. You'll find more success if you can find something that you love, and whether that you bring people or whatever into that, you truly do love this whole world of bringing joy to people and bringing entertainment to somebody. And it sounds like a superficial thing, but those of us that are in it really do love what we do. And I think that's key.
It is.
And it's kind of dreamy to say, oh, we should love what we do, and find something you love and find people that pay you to do it. And there are other people who are more pragmatic in life who say, well, we got to pay the bills.
Right.
And sometimes you do have those phases where you have to pay the bills. But when you can find success like you have, I think it just oozes out of your whole being around you. And those of you that know Amy that are listening, you know that she just like lights up when she talks about the shows that she has or her staff or all of this. And I think that's a huge key to your success, is making sure you're not pushing your way through a career that in the end of the day, you're going to hate.
Exactly. And you really, it's so true. And I never thought when I started all these years ago that this is truly what I was going to do. It was an evolution for me, and it was something that, yes, I really enjoyed doing, and the different levels as I've grown and as I've moved throughout the years, I find more and more enjoyment because I really do take ownership, and I'm able to measure the success. But it wasn't, I went to college and I have a marketing degree because I thought, okay, I think I want to do something in marketing. In hindsight, what I really wanted to do was be a veterinarian. But here's the funny thing. Yeah. Here's the funny thing. Yes. Back to the horses. I wanted to be a large animal veterinarian. I didn't think, at the time that I was smart enough to get into school at U of I. And so I said, okay, I'm going to go this other path because it seems more logical.
Oh, how
and
funny.
While I absolutely love, and you're right, I love what I do, and I love talking about the industry, and I couldn't be more excited about different things happening and the global business expanding and just all the opportunities I get to do. That's what I really wanted to do back in the day.
Oh my gosh, that is so funny. I'm looking at the clock and I'm realizing that I want to make sure that we talk about the event that is coming up this fall that we don't know a lot about. But so for all those listening, I did a panel at INTIX in January, which is our International ticketing conference that we have every year. And we did a panel. I see Jackie on here as well. So, hey, Jackie.
Hi, Jackie.
Also, power woman in ticketing, and was amazing to have on the panel with us. But out of that, we started to have a conversation about how can women, how can we possibly do something beyond a panel once a year at a conference to really help each other. I mean, this room was packed out.
It was.
And there were a lot of women in our industry who feel they've peaked out at the box office, and they move up pretty quickly through one level of the organization, and then they realize, hey, I'm being jumped over for back of house, or I'm being jumped over for front end manager, I'm being jumped over for some of these other positions in their buildings or their organizations. And that's where, like, having the open mind to at least be know what the possibilities are for you. And so rather than a once a year or a once a quarter, Amy started the conversation and said, we have to do something. I wonder if we can put something together. Now, you guys have listened to her. So I'm imagining when Amy decides she's going to put something together, with the power of, and the opportunity that is there with an organization like Caesars. Tell us a little bit about what's going on sometime this fall, and what you can tell us about that. Because it's pretty cool stuff.
It is going to be pretty cool. And, while we are still in the planning, although planning quickly phase, I did want to take the opportunity to, say that coming out of that intake session, I felt so inspired by all of the wonderful ladies that showed up and everyone we got to speak with, and just thought, this is the time. Like, I have been feeling and I don't know who's reading the Rachel Hollis's books, Girl Wash Your Face and Girl Stop Apologizing, but I am completely
the attention of the Thrive women, yes.
Yes, I'm completely addicted to those books. And so I was reading them at that time, and then, was able to speak on that panel and thought, I want to do more. And I think the feedback, as I talked to so many people the rest of that week during that that was like such a great 4 days.
Right.
I am putting together a summit, a leadership summit, based around igniting equality. And we are going to host it here in Las Vegas this fall. We don't have the date exactly locked in yet, but it really is going to be around more of the senior leadership, and how do we all help each other? How do we get to that next step? What does it mean
for female leaders? Is that what you're saying? It's a summit held in Vegas for female leaders in the live entertainment industry. Is that where is that a fair description, or did I miss?
No, that's absolutely fair. And it doesn't mean that you have to be a senior leader. It just means that you want to be a part of I'm calling it the movement, right, within our own industry, to say, how do I get to that next level? Help me understand what opportunities and how to perhaps think differently, right? Think more strategic. It's okay for you to have that opinion, for you to come and say, I think we can drive more revenue by doing X. And I know a lot of times we've gotten stuck in this world where it doesn't matter which promoter, not to call anybody out, but to say, so-and-so said I can't do that. Well, you know what? This is your venue. These are your seats. And obviously there is logistics and contract terms that go into all of this. But my point is, it's okay if you have an idea to say, why can't we try this?
Right.
And so that's really what I want to focus on.
And we did some brainstorming over this to just try to figure out. But it's something that is going to happen. So keep your ears and eyes open, all the listeners. It's going to happen this fall.
It is.
That much we can tell you. Now, can you tell us anything about the concert that Caesars is doing, or is that still hush hush?
Yeah, I mean, there's not a lot to publicly share with that yet, but we are trying to tie something together with that to just make it to just
Okay.
blow this out of the water and make this a huge event.
Yes.
Yes,
She's being very
absolutely.
secretive, but it's super cool. We can't tell you
It is
that.
super cool. Yes.
And it is really great to see like some of the larger entertainment organizations and larger organizations in every field do some things that directly speak to equal opportunity for women in their workplaces. I serve on a committee. I guess I'm a committee. It's a forum for business leaders here in my town of Gilbert, and it's the Mayor's Advisory Committee. And I had someone from a very, very large organization come to me and say, do you come out and speak, or do you know anyone who comes to speak to our organizations about how we can make sure we have equal opportunities for women to really succeed? And I think that's the key. Women have jobs.
Right.
We are 51% of the workforce. It's just the ceiling, and it's those leadership roles. And I just can't say enough about how this is the time for women to step into those where they're comfortable, sometimes where they're not comfortable, but because they have the listening skills, the strategic skills, the big picture skills, the compassion skills, and all those things are deeply needed. I mean, business is going to look very different in even 10 years and 20 years than it does right now. And I think some people are not recognizing that, but some of the big companies are. And so all we can say is, yes, Caesars has things in motion, and they're one of the companies that is doing some initiatives to make sure that women have opportunities to succeed.
They are, and they've also announced that they are going to commit to equality by 2025. We've actually partnered with Billie Jean King, who's the professional tennis player, to kind of sponsor that initiative. But yes, that is definitely something that Caesars.
To them? How are they defining like equality by 2025? Is it going to be 50% of the workforce, or what are their definitions?
50% of the workforce. Yep, at every level. So meaning manager, director, vice president, senior vice president, and above. By
all right, 2025. So there's going to be a lot of opportunity. There is going to be a lot of
opportunity. Yes. Yes, it's an exciting time, and I'm excited to be a part of it. I really am.
Yep, and I'm super excited. So everybody keep your eyes open on that. And I'm going to go ahead and just open up for if anybody has any questions or comments. This is the time, so you can open it up. You can type your question in, and Taylor is here monitoring those. So does anybody have any questions? And if not, we will continue on with just a couple things in closing and get you on your day. And I did have a great comment that came in through the email, and hopefully, Greg, you won't mind. Greg Slikas said, I enjoyed the webinar. She has some really good advice for those who are in very high action jobs and how to stay relatable. And her story is so similar to many of us. I never started out to run and own a business. I wanted to be a sports broadcaster, like you wanting to be something else. So I think it's just good to know, that the career path is not always something that you think it is.
Exactly. So, no, it's so true. And it can change. And, it's how you adapt to that.
I see a question. Let's see. Oh, we've got some questions. Should we pop open that box? I have to do it so we can.
Am I supposed to be watching these questions? Sorry. I don't know that I'm seeing them. Okay.
Okay. Oh, I'm going to expand. Okay, I figured it out now. Wonderful. So, Amy, what is your one piece of advice for young women? And she says to start a business, but perhaps to either start a business or to say, I want to become a vice president in an organization, either one of those things. What's your one piece of advice you would have for those folks?
I think learn everything you can about what it is you want to either go into business to, or if you're trying to climb that ladder, really become the expert. Become the expert in what it is you want to do, because that's, again, going back to what I have found has helped me and built my confidence along the way to really be knowledgeable about the topics that I'm trying to, either talk about or advise on or strategize about, is to be knowledgeable in those topics.
Yep. Another one, how do you maintain your grit during the challenging times?
Well, it's interesting. So I found this picture at, I don't know what it was, Home Goods, TJ Maxx, something like that. And it says, I choose joy. And I, believe it or not, I bought it and I hung it in my bathroom right next to my mirror. And so every morning, this is what I look at. And a little bit of it, my husband laughed at me. He's like, "You're really putting this in the bathroom?" I said, I was going to
say that's a little kitschy, but
It is, but I have to focus. Like every day when I get up, you have a choice, right? You can say, gosh, I have so much to do today and I have this meeting that I just don't want to go to, and either I'm not prepared or, I don't want to do it. Or you can say, I choose joy. And today I'm going to kill it. I don't have to go to work. I'm going to work.
Yes.
Right? I am going to have a positive day in all the multitude of meetings we're going to have. And I really do think there's something to that. Like, to your point, as kind of cliche as that sounds, I honestly believe that it is about your own personal attitude and how you focus on those things.
It is, and you say it in such a way that is so inspiring. It's fantastic. Who has been one of your biggest mentors? Or you already mentioned the books that you're addicted to. Is there any other mentor that you've had or an author that has impacted you? Or podcasts that you listen to?
Yeah, I do listen.
Podcast.
I did. I listened to a couple of different podcasts. I sent you the one that I really like right now with Rachel Hollis and Joe Biden. And he talks a lot about tradition, family tradition, and how important that is to not only his family, but how he thinks that's important for all families. And I really, just like that whole concept. And, I just got done reading the book, Michelle Obama's book, I Am Becoming. And I felt like I could relate to her so much because, well, one, she grew up in Chicago, and I knew exactly where she lived and some of the places she, was mentioning. But I think in terms of mentors, I have a lot of wonderful, strong ladies in my family that I've always looked up to. And I really go back to, like, we have just such a strong empowerment on my mom's side of the family that I feel like I get a lot of that from my aunts and my own mom. But I do think that mentors change over time and given the different situation. Whether that be, whether that be like coming out of that Michelle Obama book, I'm like, I think I'm going to be best friends with Michelle Obama. I think that's what I'm going to do. Now, that probably will not happen, although I feel that way.
You and 30 million other women, right?
Right, exactly.
Yes. Oh,
but I do think, I have mentors at work. I have some at home, within my own family. Some of my very dear friends are my mentors and how they deal with different situations in their lives. So I don't know that I have one specific one that I'm, calling out today, other than depending on the situation in your life, whether that's personal or professional, find that person that can help you get through it.
Nice. I have a question from Scott Phillips, who has 15-year-old twin girls.
Oh.
And so you can definitely relate, and he would like to know what leadership books you would recommend for them at this stage in their life.
Ooh, that's a really good one. Gosh, I've read a couple lately, and there is one on, I am totally blanking on the title.
You can, we can send it out to him for sure, and we'll put it in the follow-up email.
Yeah, if you don't, I realize I can't think of what the title is, but I did just read one that I would be happy to share that I think would be perfect. I can't believe I can't think of the title. I can't think of the title. Yes. I'm going to have to send it to you. I'm sorry.
You'll send it to us, and we'll put it out there for everybody. So
I will.
That'll be fantastic. Jackie, nice to hear from you. She said, I don't have a question. I just want to say I get inspired by listening to you ladies talk every time. Thank you for being change champions. So right back at you, Jackie has worked very hard and is an incredible young leader with Spectrum. I hope I said that right. Global Spectra. The name changes from here in a little bit, but yes. She's in charge of ticketing as well nationwide for them, or at least one of the leaders. So we're also inspired by you, Jackie. And if you want to correct us on your title or your company, feel free. But we'll get any books or podcasts that were mentioned today. We will send out to you happily in the follow-up email that you got just for registering. And we'll be sharing this link, I'm sure, on all the social channels so that you can grab it and share it with other folks. And we hope that it was, something that was inspiring for you today. So please continue to dial in and listen and share and talk. So much that's important about having women succeed in the workplace is about keeping the conversation going. And that's what we're trying to do here. So whether it's with our initiatives at INTIX, the summit that we can't tell you very much about this fall, for women in entertainment, books, podcasts, all of that, just continue to have those conversations and we'll really see some change start to happen. So we're excited. Amy, it has been so fun to talk with you.
You too.
And so much fun to travel with you.
I know it.
Very nice. I love, she's going to like Baby Gap in London and buying bathing suits that are so cute. So it was so fun for me to go into these little shops that had things that little girls would enjoy because mine are quite past that stage. But it was super fun. And, being a mom of girls is a special bond as well. So anyway, we thank you. You are a hero every day. And we thank you so much for your fortitude and your relatability. And I saw some women in here that are watching it Thrive really get inspired and nodding their heads, and you have a way with words. So we appreciate that so much, and we want to thank everybody. And we will do the follow-up email. Amy will think of that book and get it to us, and we'll send out any podcasts or any books that were mentioned as well, so that you've got a nice little follow-up email. So thank you, everybody. Have a fantastic day, and as Amy likes to say today, choose joy.
Choose joy. Thanks, Lynn.
Joy. Thank you so much. Bye.
All right. Bye-bye.